Hi everybody, welcome to the first ever Flying Idaho video blog. Thank you for the questions, for the feedback, I appreciate it. Let's jump right in. Our first question was from Rebecca. She asked, what are the medical requirements for a pilot versus a sport pilot? Well, it's a good question. If you didn't know, there's actually 4 levels of pilot certificates, and we're just going to keep it simple and talk about the difference between private pilot and sport pilot. But you have sport pilot, private pilot, commercial pilot, and airline transport pilot. The medical requirements for the top 3 are all the same. Only difference is how often you have to get checked up. But the sport pilot license was really designed to let folks just enjoy flying without having to go the whole hog and spend all that money to get their private pilot's license and do all the training. So less training requirements. Unfortunately, it has less privileges too. Maybe we could do a little bit about that in another video blog. But basically, a sport pilot can only fly a certain distance during the daytime, 1 passenger, things like that. But all you need from a medical standpoint is a driver's license. That's it. So the FAA says if you're fit to drive, then you're fit to fly. As long as you have a driver's license, then that's your medical. For a private pilot, it's a little bit different. You have to have a 3rd class medical certificate. A 3rd class medical certificate is a certificate that also serves as your student pilot's license. So you have to get that before you can actually solo a plane during your training. So in my case, after about 4 or 5 flying lessons, my instructor said, hey, you need to go get your medical so that way you can solo. And after about, I think it was about 7 or 8 hours of flying, I did do my first solo, and so I already had it done. You have to go to a doctor called a designated medical examiner, or a DME. That's a doctor who's been specially approved by the FAA to do pilot physicals. The physical is pretty straightforward, just like any other physical you would do. Special attention though is paid to your mental health, use of alcohol, and any medications you might be taking. So obviously they look at that pretty closely because these are things that could affect your judgment while you're flying an airplane. And matter of fact, the FAA can cancel your medical or revoke it if they feel that there's too much risk involved. So they're very picky about what types of medications you can take. There's more focus on vision. Obviously, a pilot has to be able to see well. So the requirement's 20/20 for any pilot, and that can be with glasses or with corrective lenses as long as the corrective vision is equal to 20/20. For a 3rd class medical like I have, you have to do the checkup every 5 years, up to the age of 40. After you're 40 or older, then it becomes every 2 years. And that's really the only difference between that and the 2nd and 1st class medicals, which go with the commercial and the ATP or airline transport pilot. Those just become more frequent, so a year or even as short as 6 months, depending on the type of certificate and how old the pilot is. So thanks for the question. I hope that answered it for you. And if there's more, if you'd like more details about the privileges that a sport pilot has as compared to a private pilot, then go ahead and submit that question and we'll put that on a future video blog. The next question is from Jarek. He asked an interesting one. Said, how were your nerves the first time you flew versus your solo? Well, I did quite a bit of flying when I was a kid, commercially, and I just loved being on airplanes. So when I took my first lesson, I was having a blast. It was fun. I finally got to get my hands on the controls, and it was awesome. Well, on the first solo, it's a little bit different. I was having a pretty hard time making consistent landings, so my instructor worked with me probably 2 or 3 lessons up to that point, doing nothing but just landing and taking off. And every time he just came up a constant running commentary or play-by-play. He's like, hey, you're a little high, bring your power back, or a little more rudder, or watch the crosswind, all those kind of things. Finally, he felt I was ready, and we landed. He said, get off the runway. We taxied off, and he said, let me out here, and you go and do 3 landings and 3 takeoffs. So I was like, oh, okay. I didn't think he was going to let me do it because I was really struggling that day. But that's the whole purpose of the solo, is to build your confidence that you can actually fly without any help. So off I went, and I got nervous as soon as I got in the air. I mean, I was like, oh boy. But as I flew downwind and got the plane set up for landing, it was almost like I could hear him. And everything that he would usually say was running through my mind. You know, okay, you check your flaps, watch your airspeed, you know, watch the turn to base and to final, make your radio calls, and it was just coming back to me. So after the first landing went pretty well, I just kind of relaxed and flew 2 more, and it was fine. I got a video of that on my other YouTube channel that he took for me from the ground, and I need to migrate that over to this channel, so I'm going to work on that hopefully in the next couple of weeks. So thanks for the question, Jarek. Really, it's in the later stages of flying, when you're getting close to taking that test for your license. You do a lot more solo flying just because you need to practice all the things you were taught. And so I would show up and he'd be like, okay, go practice. So after you do that a couple of times, you get comfortable, flying by yourself. I did I think about 11 hours of solo time before I got my license. 10 is the minimum requirement. So again, that's really so you can practice, and also just to build your confidence, because when you fly with the examiner for the license test, they want to see you be in command. You're flying the plane, they're just the passenger, and they're just really observing and paying attention to how well you know what you're doing. And that's really what it is. It's a judge of character as much as it is a judge of technical skills. It's good decision making and those kind of things that they're looking for. So thanks, Jarek. Appreciate that question. That's the only questions I had submitted for the first video blog, so please submit more. I'd like to keep this going and make it a regular feature in the channel. Sorry about my editing skills, okay? I am not a videographer. I'm just a guy who's crazy about airplanes, so bear with me. I'm going to try to make the videos a little nicer, a little more consistent. I'm also going to go back to my other ones on the channel and add some voiceover to it, just to describe what we're doing there. So hopefully that will help. I know I haven't posted any flying videos in a while, just to personal reasons. I haven't been able to fly since this past June. And hopefully I'm going to get back in that soon. There's a new airplane in the hangar that I want to get checked out on. It's a 172. So that'll be the 4th airplane that I'll be flying, and I'm sure we'll get some videos flying that one as well in the future. Yeah, so I hope that answered all the questions for the first video log, and thank you again for watching Flying Idaho. See you next time.